talking about, it's also really, it's like a First Amendment right of also, I think, that's
How so?
because the internet really is a means of public expression. And so if you limit if companies can say, well, we don't like that you're organizing against Verizon and we're going to throttle your message.
What do you think about companies like Facebook or Twitter or YouTube who are banning like maybe certain conservative or far-right figures from their platforms?
That's their decision to make.
So what happened to the free speech issue?
Well, I think I'm going to stop this conversation.
Okay. Yeah, sure. No problem. Thank you. All right, guys. Nuance Bro checking in. We're in San Francisco, California at the Net Neutrality protest. Let's go talk to people. So why are we out here today?
We're here to protest the FCC's vote to take down the rules protecting net neutrality.
Sure. And why are you doing that?
Doing that because the internet's really a right for everyone, and if it's repealed, that gives companies the ability to just kind of, monetize it in a way that only allows the wealthy to access the information that they want. It's really counterintuitive to the point of the internet.
And do you think that's like an actual danger of happening if this goes away?
Well, I mean, if this does go away, then there will be court cases filed by the ACLU, different organizations, so it'll be slow. But that's why you see companies like AT&T trying to buy Time Warner and Disney trying to buy Fox. They're preparing for this. Whoever has the most content and the most control of that content will then be able to really control what we access. So absolutely, it makes so much monetary sense for them. That's why they're pushing for it.
And I mean, you obviously, the internet's been around for a long time. How long has net neutrality been around for?
So technically the rule under Title II has been in place since 2015, I believe. But there was a case in, I think it was, to be honest, I'm not 100% sure, like the 80s, where net neutrality was added to, the protection of the internet was added into the FCC's regulations under the Communications Act of 1934. And so since then, it's kind of been this just accepted rule, not implemented into law. But I mean, you see companies like Comcast actually removed their promise from their website to keep an open and free internet once they announced that this vote was going to go down. So it is a very real threat.
So why are you here today?
You know what? I've watched the Republicans, and in particular this administration, just try and, destroy our version of the internet. We've seen what Comcast and Verizon will do unregulated. Most people in this country have one, maybe two choices of high-speed providers, and they act like monopolies. When they're given no government regulation, they will take advantage of it every time.
And what do you think will happen if we repeal net neutrality?
I think we'll start to see the ISPs take even more advantage than they already do. I'm paying, $80, $90 because I don't want their TV bundle. I could probably be paying $70 if I wanted their TV bundle, and they're getting away with that today. Wait till they say, oh, you want Google, that's going to be another $10, or the Microsoft Bing is our preferred search engine, and you're going to have to hack around trying to use Google because they aren't paying us. I mean, that's going to come.
And why do you think they weren't doing that before 2015 when net neutrality was enacted?
They talked about it. They had it on their business plans. They've talked about doing things like this, where, it'll start out where, we're charging you $60, but we're going to let you have it for $50 if you accept these restrictions, because, Bing is going to pay us and Waze is going to pay us, and you can't use your preferred app, so you can use the apps that we let you. And then it'll be where you're paying $50 and I'm paying $100.
As far as like packet prioritization, right? You don't think there should be any sort of packet prioritization?
No. I mean, the internet the way it is today, for the most part, I mean, granted, there are reasonable network management exceptions, but we're not talking about that. They were granted that, and they've said that's not enough. They've taken every opportunity to sue to avoid any regulation just on principle, and they have talked about having profit motivations that would obviously go against the concept of net neutrality. And government regulation, especially the Democratic government regulation, has put a damper on that. And now they're getting the green light to do whatever they want without restriction.
Sure. But I mean, for example, we obviously have new technologies where, like in the medical field, where people can actually perform surgeries remotely, right? So we shouldn't say like packets like that should be prioritized the same as like someone watching cat videos, right?
Well, let me put it this way: if we're talking about consumer, we're not talking about business, and we're also talking about
Well, it affects all of it, right?
potentially. I mean, what we're talking about here is the ISPs using their monopoly situation to take anti-consumer stances, and that has happened in the past, and it will happen in the future. And that's all I have to say.
Reality. We need net neutrality. See, this is an easy one. I can actually do this chant. I usually suck at chants. So why are we out here today?
Well, I think that people are protesting the privatization of the internet and the relaxing of laws or guidelines, regulations by the Trump administration that will enable the large large internet companies to actually determine who gets access to the information on the web.
And it's specifically about the net neutrality sort of FCC regulation, right?
That's correct, yes.
And so what do you think was the problem with the internet back in 2014, 2013? Was it a different experience back then than you think it is today?
No, I don't think it's different. I think what's different is that the current the Trump administration is looking to unfetter anything that for the corporations to make money. I think a lot of people, I mean, some of the large corporations are opposed to this for their own reasons, but the idea would be that you would pay extra if you want to get special privileges on the internet. The internet really should be considered a public utility, and people should have access to it, not unfettered by corporate profit lines.
And do you think like a company would do that because they could risk losing lots of customers if they do something like that, right?
Comcast has already done that with Netflix before they incorporated Netflix into their product line. They were throttling Netflix for people who were using Comcast and a smart TV to get Netflix. So we
obviously have limited bandwidth, right? Because I mean, bandwidth's not unlimited, so we have to prioritize certain packets over others in some sort of fashion. Otherwise, it's just going to be, huge traffic, slower speeds for everyone, right? I
don't think that's true. I think the technology is evolving constantly to the point that that's a false issue.
And so we're here with the Party for Socialism and Liberation. Why is an organization like that associated with this movement?
Because we're a socialist organization. We believe that the resources produced in society are produced by working people, and working people should determine how those resources are used for the better good of the community, not for corporate profits. So we're out here in solidarity saying the internet should be accessible to all those regardless of capacity to pay. It really is, like I said, a public utility, and therefore should be treated as such.
I mean, it was already accessible back. I mean, I haven't noticed a huge difference back in like 2012, 2013 than compared to today, other than like speed increases, which comes with technology increases, right?
Right. Well, that's because these regulations have reinforced that. Without the regulations, you will be proven wrong.
But I mean, it hasn't really changed since then.
It has not changed because the regulations have been in place.
No, they've been in place since 2015. They were in place back in 2012, 2013.
Right. Well, I think that it's an effort to make sure that the companies don't do that.
Ho, ho! Hey, hey! Net neutrality is here to stay. Ho, ho! Hey, hey! Net neutrality is here to stay.
By the way, guys, subscribe and hit that notification bell to support the channel. So why are we out here today?
To save net neutrality.
Why?
I'm interested in protecting public net neutrality because it's important for like free speech.
Free speech? How so?
Well, if different corporations are able to throttle the kind of speech that they want on the internet, it's going to affect free speech.
So what do you think about that?
Example?
I mean, sure, yeah.
Oh yeah, so. Like a rich company like Tesla, for example, might be interested in silencing people who are trying to organize labor unions there, like Elon Musk has been. So they could make it people trying to access the union sites really difficult. So people with more money are more able to silence the other dissenting political interests.
Sure. I mean, those are kind of like hypotheticals. They haven't really necessarily happened, right?
Well, money is used to like silence political interests all the time.
How so?
The cases that I was just talking about. So like, have you heard of unions? So usually if a union's being organized at a company, the company will pay a union buster to go and try to like destroy the union. So like, it's like a political opponent that they're going to like try and destroy with by like.
Is that something that should be illegal?
Well, is what should be illegal?
Like if you send someone in to basically like, I mean, what is a union? What do they do exactly? Like they use force? Or?
How is this related? I don't.
You
think,
brought it
I don't
up,
think whether
so
or
I
not
mean-
that's legal. So like, I don't think that people with more money should be able to silence political dissidents because they have more money. I think that.
I mean, how do they? I mean, other than the hypothetical, like in real life, how do they kind of do that?
So, like, if you have a lot of money, it's easy to like run a political campaign, right?
That's
So-
not. That's
so
more. That's more
obviously-
like more speech
Correct.
as opposed to like silencing.
So
right?
if you have a lot of money, you're able to like have a larger like political campaign.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, they're trolling me. It's pretty fun.
I'm
though.
not. I'm not trolling anybody.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
No.
Wait. I'm sorry. You said I was trolling people.
No, I said you're. No, they didn't say that. I said you're trolling me.
So, I mean, what did they
You're asking
say?
good questions. You're asking good questions.
Exactly.
They're
I do that
interesting.
at any sort of event I go to.
Yeah.
It doesn't
that's
matter
good.
if it's left
Very
or right
important.
or anything.
Very
So
important.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
But
what do you think? Do you think this is like a left or right event?
I don't think it's anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just curious.
Getting back to the free speech thing, because I think that's important.
Yeah.
Because you
Free
said
speech is very important.
basically the idea that if ISPs can throttle, they can throttle maybe certain sites. Like let's say, I mean, obviously this is just an example, but like they could say less traffic to CNN, more to Fox because it's owned by Time Warner. Well, Time Warner would prefer CNN, so
Right.
we'll say more to
That's a great example because that would be totally legal.
Sure.
And it hasn't happened before. You're correct. But also like, there's nothing that would stop it with net neutrality removed.
And what do you think about the private companies like Facebook and Twitter and YouTube who actually censor certain opinions because they might be deemed hate speech or something like that? What do you think about those?
I'm not really. I think that it's kind of overblown how big of a deal like hate speech on those platforms is.
What do you, in what's it like? You think
I think like
you think the amount of presence of hate speech, like people think there's way more of it than there actually is, or you're saying like
no,
the response to it?
well, so like those are private corporations, and like I
So
think
are
that people-
ISPs.
Yeah, so Twitter and Facebook and YouTube are all private corporations, and people seem to expect that they won't like. I think that it's a little overblown, like silencing the Nazis and stuff, because like let them fucking talk on the internet. They're not going to hurt you.
If
Personally,
they have bad ideas, like let them say their bad ideas so people can see how crazy they are, right?
Yeah.
But I mean,
I
so what
agree.
do you think about companies like Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, like silencing, not even just opinions like those, but even opinions that maybe like they might think are like those or
Right.
in that vein?
Well, I'm
the
not
ones that
a.
disagree
I'm not
with
a. Right. So I don't care if they silence Nazis, but so silencing opinions in the vein of Nazis, I also don't care about.
it. Why?
Because I'm not. I don't have like. I'm not politically in the vein of a Nazi.
I mean, so because you don't agree with them, just silence them, basically?
No. I mean, if they started silencing political speech that I cared about, then I would
Are they doing that?
off, but I would probably tell people who are using Twitter and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, silencing leftists has been going on much longer and much more seriously than silencing Nazis. So, like, before, did you not know that? You look surprised.
I mean, you're talking about like way back in the day sort of thing, right? Like
But
other
still,
governments
but
do
still,
as well.
like, schools will, like, try to shut down.
Two wrongs make a right, though?
No, and I'm not advocating that. Like I said, I don't care if like people try to. I don't really. I'm not gonna go out there and like tell Twitter to like not ban Nazis. I don't really care. Maybe if they were.
Shouldn't you care about free speech in general? Because
I do.
first they come for the Nazis, right? And then they come for me.
But
so-
I mean, I gotta pick my battles. Not gonna go out to.
Start where it starts there, so you should always start kind of at the beginning, right?
Well, it started with leftists. It's like political speech, like
it's starting
leftist
again,
political
right?
speech. Right, and so I'm going to try to defend like leftist political speech, but not Nazis. And I don't have the time or energy to defend every single thing that I can imagine. I don't really care to defend Nazis because there are plenty of like better things to defend.
Have you kept up with the telecommunications industry at all? Like the certain advancements that have been made in the last few years?
Not really.
Who's your cell phone provider, for example?
These idiots.
Verizon. So, for example,
I used to love Verizon. I mean,
well, I actually think it used to be worse because, for example, back in the day, they used to have like these fees if you went over a certain amount, right? If you went over your data, and they had like data plans, like you got 4 gigabytes a month or something like that. Well, now they say they offer unlimited, right? That only came after the competition came, and places like T-Mobile, they offered unlimited, right?
That's
true. So it created competition in the marketplace. But the only reason companies like T-Mobile were able to offer unlimited plans is because, first of all, they throttle you after you get over a certain amount of like gigabytes.
Right, they slow you
but
down.
on top of that, like video streaming services, they say unlimited video streaming if you want. But the thing is, what we have to do is we have to bring down the quality to about 480p on like YouTube or something like that.
Right, so your experience is bad.
But the thing, no, it's not bad. It's just not like you can't stream in like 4K on the screen. It's not a huge deal. But you can pay a little more if you want to get the full benefit, right? So isn't that a better experience overall for customers? And you can let the consumers decide between which provider they want to go with if they want to offer, the service like T-Mobile or the one like Verizon, and that kind of helps everyone out. But then a plan like net neutrality could actually stifle something like that, and we might be back at old, gigabyte plans.
I don't know.
Some people have argued what T-Mobile's doing actually violates net neutrality.
Is that right? You probably know more about this than I do, to be honest with you. Yeah.
I don't think I know that much, to be honest. That's why I'm asking questions out here.
Yeah. I really just think that, this is going to probably sound really crazy, but I think that this is not only putting corporate America above consumers, which is happening everywhere in every industry that this administration can get its hands on. But in my mind, and this is going to sound like, wow, that chick's really out there, but this seems to me, and God, I hope I'm wrong, but I think it's like a larger game plan that it's like the more they can disenfranchise the people who are poor and people like me who are just middle class, just trying to get by, trying to get along, and the more that they can find ways to screw us, they are, and they will. I'm going to fight on every front. I don't give a shit what it is. I'm serious.
That's good. I love the passion. One more question, because I think what some people who oppose net neutrality, I guess they fear, is by claiming it's a public utility under the FCC,
right,
you're giving them sort of regulatory oversight. And maybe they're starting out with net neutrality, and maybe we can say that's a good thing, right? Because it's just like, it's no preferential, it's just like everything's the same. But what if they're worried about like them treating it almost like cable TV, where they censor the F word, or they're censoring certain kinds of speech, or what you can show on
That's what I'm
TV?
worried about.
So but that's the government, though. That's not the corporations, for example. Because you used the internet before 2015, right? Was it that different of an experience than it is today? Because that's when net neutrality passed, was in 2015.
Before 2015, I think
maybe the speeds were different, but that's just because of technology, right?
Well, I think the speeds were different, but I also have to. There's a couple things I have to admit to you. One, I didn't pay attention that much before, and two, I think now that. I'm trying to think back. Like, what was I doing in 2015? It's only 2 years ago, right? But I think that the amount of well, I think first of all, just thinking about my work, cloud-based applications are, they've been coming along progressively. I don't want to say they've exploded, but there are definitely things that I used to do where, I had my disk and you put it in, you load the program, and then you were stuck with that because you had to go get an upgrade if you blah, blah, blah. Now everything's cloud-based.
All right, guys, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Support me on Patreon. Social media links are in the description box below, and thanks for tuning in for another episode of Nuance, bro. There we go.